Okay. Hello, Durud and Shalom. We are live.
Hello, hello, everyone. All right, so I'm just going to go over the rules very quickly because this is a free day. And if we have new people, welcome new people. Please put a number 1 in the chat if you would like to speak on a new topic and include what topic you're going to speak on. And if you want to respond to a new topic, please put a 2 in the chat. I will ask you to keep all of your microphones muted at all times until you're called. And I'm going to limit the responses to two or three max, just because we have so many people, and I want people to have a chance to speak. All right, let's get going. The first number 1 is Lior, our counter. Past attempts to free Iran.
Past
Super
attempts to
chat
free Iran?
counter.
Oh, yes. Lior,
Yes.
thank you. Okay. Past attempts to free Iran. And thank you, Lior, for everything you do in the chat.
It's my pleasure. It's kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I think I enjoyed a little too much. Okay, so I guess a couple of questions. One is, and again, I'm not like a history expert, but I'm curious to know how many attempts were there to, liberate ourselves from the Islamic terrorist regime, and what was the most not recent necessarily, but what was the most, like, the closest call that they came to? And I mean, my assumption, again, not knowing the history, would be the most recent was probably the most, like, successful-ish, right? Like, it's kind of everyone that happens, one after the other, it should be like more unified, more unified, more unified, but maybe that's not necessarily the case. So I'd like to know that, and I'd like to know what were the factors or circumstances that were lacking at that time that kind of were able to seal the deal. Was it a lack of international support? Was it, they didn't have arms? Like, just curious to know,
So-
just based on obviously what's going on now. Yeah.
You're talking about liberating Iran by the Iranian people, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So would going through a history of the uprisings be an answer to
Yeah,
that?
maybe like a quick little, high level
Yeah.
history. Like, what are the key ones? I'm sure there's been so many over the years, but maybe the ones that stand out the most.
Okay. So if we want to do all the uprisings, we have to go back to the Green Movement, the 2009 Green Movement. That was not an uprising to topple the regime, but that was an uprising for reforms, right? That was, but I would consider that still be an uprising to liberate Iran, because because the option of an uprising for toppling the regime was not even on the table back then. And my theory is that even back then, if that option was on the table, the Iranian people would have picked that option instead. So, given that reform seemed to be the only thing the Iranian people could do to become freer, that movement was asking for reform. And now the Iranian people are not asking for reform, but it starts with the 2009 Green Movement. Okay. So that was that was big, by the way. Nara, like, do you have any opinions on that one first, like Green Movement of 2009 Green Movement?
Yeah, I was actually there during the Green Movement. I was a university student. So that one was actually, for me, it was also the first time that I realized, oh, a lot of people are actually against what's going on. And me becoming like an older teenager, I realized that more people in society are actually against a lot of things in the regime. And a lot of us that went out, I know that it was a reformist type thing, that's how it started, but a lot of us were going out because we're just against the regime, if that makes sense. What else was the specifics of this? Sorry, I was keeping track of the numbers.
No, that's I just wanted to see what your experience with that was, right?
Yeah.
We did. So I have to look up what these days are in Gregorian calendar, because I have these in my mind. 96 and 98 are in Persian calendar. So this was this was 2017, December 2017, January 2018. What we had another uprising, and this was the first mass like big uprising that was now for regime change, right? If 2009 green movement was for reform, the 2017-2018 protests, which was, that was now the toppling, the barandas movement was now picking up, and the Iranian people were moving. That's when the popular chant اصلاح طلب اصول گرب دیگه تمام ماجرا, that's when it started, which was a chant saying, reformers, hardliner, both of your time is up, like we'll be against both of you, right? So that was started at Mashhad by, again, the spark for that was a sudden surge in food prices, especially eggs. But then it immediately shifted to asking for a complete regime change. And it's all of a sudden spread to 140 cities. And then there was heavy crackdown. And there were protesters, many protesters were shot, killed, and many more were arrested. Then we had the Bloody Aban massacre in 1398, based on Persian calendar. So I looked this up. That would be 2019, November 2019. So we call it, the Bloody Aban, or maybe the Aban massacre. Aban is a month in the Persian calendar. So that was triggered by an overnight spike in fuel prices, right? Again, you could see a trend here initially the spark is economic, but then as soon as the protest picks up, it switches from economic frustration to a demand to a regime. And this one shifted within hours. So within hours, a widespread public outrage evolved into an explicit demand to overthrow the regime, and protesters blocked highways and burned down state-owned banks and gas stations. Many of them actually were done by the regime people themselves to try to to show that the protesters were violent. But this is the first great massacre of the Islamic Republic happened here. That's why we call it the Bloody Aban. The first great recent bloody massacre, because we also had the regime in the 80s doing mass executions, up to 30,000 executions. We had the regime done in the 1980s. But in recent history, before what we saw in early January in 2019, the regime implemented a near total week-long internet blockade. That was our first experience with the countrywide internet blockade to hide its actions. And in that darkness, and this didn't get at all the coverage that like it was the whole media worldwide was like so unbelievably silent about this, right? Because 1,500 protesters were killed, massacred. According to Reuters, the number was 1,500, and there was not that much coverage about it. So the Islamic Republic in 2019 learned that if they shut down the internet, this was their first experience to the utility of shutting down the internet, right? And then obviously we had the Women Life Freedom protest in 2022 and 2023, which was that one is different because this is the one that was sparked by the murder of Mahsa Amini. If you notice, the earlier ones were sparked by something economic, but this one was Mahsa Amini was killed by the morality police for not wearing her hijab properly. And then we had nationwide protests. I think most of you know what happened after. That was big. That was a huge, each one of these are, were bigger. Each one of these, I mean, the green movement in 2009 was huge, but that was not for toppling the regime. But each one of these later protests that were for toppling the regime, it was end up becoming bigger than the one before it, right? And then the last one, obviously, is the most recent one, December 2025 and January 2026, where we have the Lion and Sun Revolution, and we have had the biggest, the amount of crowds even bigger than the green movement. This has been the greatest uprising in the history of Iran ever. And this one also, the spark was the economic freefall, record inflation, and a 40% drop in the value of the real, the currency. That's what again triggered the protest. But then eventually it immediately transformed into the largest nationwide anti-regime uprising since 1979. I mean, I think including 1979 actually, spreading to all 31 provinces and over 200 cities and more, and towns and villages as well. The And also, obviously, I know you all know, but we also have to talk about the massacre. This was also the greatest massacre that the regime has ever committed, directly ordered by Ali Khamenei, and an unprecedented internet blackout that continues to this day. And in the darkness, without the internet coverage, the regime committed the greatest massacre in modern history on a civilian population, with more than 42,000 Iranians being killed in 10 hours. This is like not just the darkest chapter of the history of Iran, but one of the, I mean, modern history is actually the greatest act of massacre ever committed. So even by worldwide standards, that's what it led to. And so this has been the last one so far. And given that the distance between these uprisings keeps shortening, so guys, if you take out COVID, you could see right before COVID, you could see every uprising was bigger than the one before it, and the distance between the uprisings were also shortening. The only thing that created some bigger distance between that just like ruined this trend was COVID. But right after COVID, we got the uprisings. We went back to the trend of the distance between the uprisings shortening and the number of people participating increasing. Does that answer your question, Leo?
Yeah. So, to recap, I mean, were there no protests from 79 to like 2000? What was it? 17, 18, 19? Like, or were they smaller, maybe, or more significant? Sorry, I can't.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that I know of. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm surprised there was nothing.
Not as your meter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. We had the anti-hijab protest that happened in 1980, right after the revolution.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that one. Good one.
Yeah.
Good
There were smaller uprisings here and there over the years, but the main significant ones were the ones that Armin mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Jeff wants to respond to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid question as to the challenges that are facing, like what is the challenges that faced Iranian people realizing the noble goal of liberating Iran from the mullah regime that's illegally occupied Iran since 1779, in part because you're not just fighting the mullah regime, you're fighting their patrons, whether it was the Soviet Union during the Soviet era of the Cold War that played a direct role in taking down His Highness the Noble House of Pahlavi, and or their descendants in a post-Soviet era. I mean, within the context of what the time frame Armin outlined in Nari, thank you again for doing that overview for everybody, both of you. From 2009 to now, what do you see? I mean, you can see how the left, you can see examples of how the anti-American, anti-Western left aligned itself with the mullah regime over the Iranian people. What did Obama say, right? And where's my vote? You better come out and challenge the legitimacy of the election. And so, like, brave Iranian kids did that. And then Obama threw them under the bus. I guess I'll boil it down this way. The reason that a lot of the Iranian people, our efforts to liberate Iran have been frustrated is because too many Western institutions hijacked by radical leftists that find their origins in Soviet active measures preferred a useful anti-American regime to a free Iranian people. And that the left's choice wasn't moral confusion, it's geopolitical alignment, right? What do you see? You see too many of these people that say they stand for women, workers, minorities, students, free speech, and anti-fascism, and suddenly become so cautious when the oppressor is anti-American, anti-Israeli, Islamicist, or wrapped up in revolutionary language. They treated pressure on Tehran, or the mullah regime that's occupying Tehran, as the problem rather than Tehran's oppression, well, the mullah regime's oppression of its own people. They treated the nuclear deal as more important than Iranian dissidents. They treat the IRGC as a geopolitical actor instead of a transnational repression machine. They treat Iranian protesters as inconvenient complications to diplomacy. And they called regime critics, myself being one of them, Armin, Goldie, Tusi, as hawks, while Iranian women were being beaten, raped, imprisoned, blinded, and executed. So where does that leave us today? The number one, the victory that was purchased at such an extreme cost by the Iranian resistance in January is that it showed in no uncertain detail, irrevocably, there is no connection between the mullah regime that illegally occupies Iran and Iranian people. And that it doesn't matter what the mullah regime does. It doesn't matter what happens at the national level, albeit like ultimately, the free people of the world now stand with people in the Iranian resistance and the people in Iran. I mean, it matters what happens at the national level regarding what's the cost of liberating Iran. I promise you, Iranians will never fucking be alone again.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I was a freshman in college when the 2009 protests started, and I remember what President Obama said back then and all that, and then yeah, he did throw him under the bus. Not only that, but he cut funding to the anti-regime groups after he took office. So that was another thing he did. I mean, President Bush, George W. Bush, he increased funding, and then when Obama came into power, he cut that. So, I mean, who knows what would have changed had he not done that? But yeah, I remember those days, and now there is a sea of blood between us and the regime. There's no going back. We have to keep pushing forward. And thank you, Jeffrey, for what you said, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like to remind people that President Obama directly funded October 7th. I think just saying that really helps. President Obama funded October 7th.
Yeah. And I think this is the reason that a lot of Iranians are upset right now, because of all the things that we've seen and we've been through. We don't want this to be another, they used, like, our massacre was used as political tokens to start something and then leave the regime intact and wounded. You know what I mean? So that's where most of the stress is coming from, is that we don't want to be left with a wounded, brutal regime.
And it's very justified to be worried about that.
Yeah. All right, so we're moving on. Oh, do you want to read Super Chats, Armin? And then we'll have a new topic.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the Super Chats. Fabrizio saying there are fake lives on Trump on YouTube. Sorry. No, that's okay, Fabrizio. Yeah, I mean, there's so many YouTube channels they think Trump live, and then you go watch. It's an old speech. So yeah, and thank you for supporting us. And Ida saying Durud, everyone. Our second super chat by Ida, and then we have another super chat by Ida saying, "What's happening? What's going on? Where am I?" Thank you, Ida. Thank you for the super chat, and it's very generous super chat. So thank you for that. Okay, those were the super chats. So what's next?
All right, next we have Sherry. Her topic is the 3 phases of Islamic Republic ambitions that you mentioned in YouTube as well.
The Islamic Republic's imperial agenda.
Yes. Sherry, go ahead.
Hey, Armin. First, I just wanted to say I'm going to propose that the Strait of Hormuz become Cyrus the Great Strait. And then I did want to ask you if you would repeat what you did on the early show this morning about the 3 phases, just in case anyone here wasn't there.
Okay, so let me try to do this one more time. Okay, so the Islamic Republic is an attempt to carry out a plan that has been years in making, even before the Islamic Republic came into power, right? The Islamic understanding, and this is pre-Muslim Brotherhood, this is Islam, is that the world is either Islam or kufr, which is unbelief. So, and this is a very Quranic understanding of the world, right? And it's also within the Quran that you should be at war with kufr. You should be at war with wherever that Islam doesn't rule, because the whole point of Islam is to bring Islamic ruling, not just on how you brush your teeth and wash your hand and shit and sleep, but also governance everywhere. You need to have Islamic governance everywhere, and wherever you don't have Islamic governance, you need to be at war with it until all rule is from Allah, right? So this is an Islamic teaching. And then we also have the Islamic teaching, Islamic understanding, according to the Quran, that if you sin, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a Muslim. You could be a Muslim who drinks alcohol. You could be a Muslim who eats pork. Those are counted as sins for you, and they're going to shove hot rods up your ass in hell for every one of your sins. But technically, eventually, you will leave hell because you died as a Muslim. You will be tortured for thousands of years, and then finally, you will go to heaven, which is far preferable to non-Muslims who are going to go to hell forever. So Sayyid Qutb from Muslim Brotherhood, I think you guys might know him already, right? He basically, at his time, he came to the world at a time where the Muslim world was experiencing a high degree of humiliation. Why? Because there was no caliphate. After First World War, the Ottoman Empire had fallen, and for the first time in the history of Islam, there was no caliphate. And this is the many Muslims, especially religious Muslims, were dealing with an identity crisis, looking at the Islamic world weak and the Western world so powerful, and that could not be justified because they were on the right side of history with Allah. Why were they so powerful and they were so weak? And they were not used to this because we had the Islamic Empire for hundreds of years, and the idea from a Sunni perspective is that we are so powerful because we're on the right side with Allah, right? So Sayyid Qutb basically was a person that came with the idea, based on Quranic teachings, that any Muslim who denies that we should bring back Islamic rule is not a Muslim to begin with. Because when I was telling you that a Muslim, even if a Muslim sins, they're still a Muslim, here's what I should add to it. If a Muslim denies a commandment from Allah, according to the Quran, they're not a Muslim anymore. So if I'm a Muslim and I'm drinking alcohol, I'm still a Muslim, but a Muslim who's sinning, who will be punished for it unless I repent. But if I say, so if you go to a Muslim and say that, hey, why are you drinking alcohol? If he says, oh yeah, I know it's bad, I'm sinning, I shouldn't be, then that man is still a Muslim. But if that person says, well, this is not a sin, I don't think Allah cares, then because that person denied the commandment of Allah, you could takfir them, means that you could announce them to be not a Muslim. So Sayyid Qutb took that, and he said that because it's a commandment of Allah for us to fight for Islamic rule, any Muslim who thinks that is not a commandment of Allah for Islamic rule globally is not a Muslim. That means Sayyid Qutb came with the idea that we should be waging war against people who me and you would call Muslim, but he considers to be non-Muslim. Like, for example, the rulers of Islamic world, the rulers of Egypt, Syria, Iraq, they're not Muslim because they believe in this nation state model, which is a Western model, instead of the Islamic caliphate model, which is an Islamic model. And also they're not waging war. They don't believe in waging war against the United States and Israel and everything else. So because they're denying a commandment of Allah, we can takfir them and consider them to be kafirs and wage wars against them. And he basically started popularizing the modern version of political Islam. Islam has always been political, but Sayyid Qutb brought the modern version of it. So Sayyid Qutb failed. He was executed, and Muslim Brotherhood is not ruling over any country right now, except the only place that they're ruling is Hamas in Gaza. And then so we based on now with all that in mind, you have to understand there were 3 different movements that was trying to bring an empire in the Middle East, right? Because of the failures of Islam to bring glory back to the people in this region and make them feel significant again and deal with this humiliation that they were feeling, we had a period where pan-Arabism became popular. These were more secular-minded, maybe socialist, communist-minded Arabs who were kind of like Nazis. They were very much like Nazis. Right? They were national socialists, obsessed with Arab superiority as a race, and they wanted to instead of an Islamic empire, they wanted to create an Arab empire based on ethnicity rather than Islam, right? And they were socialists. They were more secular, but they were kind of like Nazis. They were like race supremacists. And the main figure here is Jamal Abdel Nasser. And they tried to bring an Arab empire, and the Israelis fucked them up, humiliated them. We had 6 Arab countries trying to defeat Israel at the same time, multiple times. And this tiny little country of Israel, back then, even without this help of the United States, fucked them up all the fucking time, every single time. And Israel basically single-handedly ended the dream of an Arab empire. The pan-Arab empire, the pan-Arab movement was completely destroyed by Israel, which was unbelievable. Instead of the pan-Arab empire was supposed to help with their humiliation, it amplified and significantly increased their humiliation, that this tiny new country defeated all of you at the same time. It was so humiliating. So that humiliation, and this is why we keep talking about how humiliation is important, is because the humiliation ended the pan-Arab empire, the pan-Arab movement. So given the pan-Arab movement was defeated, the Islamist movement, Muslim Brotherhood, came back. And then we had the Sunni Muslim Brotherhood focused movement trying to bring an Islamic empire. And this went in many different directions. The Wahhabi side, the Muslim Brotherhood side, we had ISIS, we had Al-Qaeda. We had ISIS as a state, but we had also Muslim Brotherhood trying to, and the goal, so the Muslim Brotherhood eventually tried to play the games of the West, like basically tried to use the weapon of the West, voting, parliaments, president, prime ministers, all of that stuff as a trick to try to get favoritism from people within the left who were in their minds were anti-imperialist West, especially communists and leftists, right? Who were anti-Zionist, to try to bring an Islamic empire in the Middle East and North Africa. And their goal to try to do that was, their understanding was, in the same way that the Pan-Arabists identify Israel as the main obstacle to create their Arab empire, the Islamists also identified Israel in the Middle East to be the main obstacle to bring their Islamic, not the Arab empire, but their Islamic empire to the Middle East and North Africa. So from their perspective, Israel is this tumor in the Middle East that is stopping everything from happening, right? So the Palestinian cause was created self-admittedly by the leaders of the Palestinian cause, that we don't give a shit about Palestine. This is not a national movement, that this is a trick for us to end Israel. And this is not about, I mean, actually, the leaders of the Palestinian cause was as first the Pan-Arabists. And they admitted that this has nothing to do with a national. We want to bring an Arab empire, not a Palestinian nation state. So this was an excuse to get rid of Israel, because Israel was in the way for the Pan-Arabists and eventually also for the Pan-Islamists. They failed as well. So Israel won over the Pan-Arabists, then they won over the Sunni Pan-Islamists, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas. But now we have the third group of people, which is the Shia Pan-Islamists, who don't want to bring a caliphate. They want to bring an imamate, right? So in line with that line of thinking from Sayyid Qutb, who made its way from Egypt to Iran through this guy called Nawab Safavi, no relationship to me, by the way, but within Iran, they created a Shia version of Sayyid Qutb's ideology through Nawab Safavi before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Nawab Safavi was executed by the Shah, by Pahlavi, because of his assassinations that his group was doing. He was killed by Nawab Safavi, inspired Khomeini and Khamenei. And the Velayat Faqih version of Shia Islam that we have now in Iran is the attempt by Khomeini to create a Shia version of what Sayyid Qutb was doing in Egypt. I'm not going to go into theological ways for how he did that, but that created the Islamic, that caused the Islamic Revolution of 1979 and created the Islamic Republic. So with that, now this plan is now being attempted for a third time. So the eventual goal is global domination. So there was a three-phase plan. First, we take over Iran by getting rid of the head of the world order. The head of the world order, according to these movements, is United States. The Islam, again, I tell people, Islam is not just a religion. It's a world order seeing itself in competition with the world order, the Western world order, with its heads being United States. So first, we need to get rid of the U.S. ally in Iran so that we could capture Iran, use the resources of Iran, the oil and gas, to then export our revolution. And again, remember, the revolution was not against Pahlavi. The revolution is against the world order, as the Western world order as it is. That's why even after they removed Pahlavi, they continue to be revolutionaries, because the revolution was not just against Pahlavi. This is why IRGC, the R in IRGC stands for revolutionary. Usually revolutionaries stop being revolutionaries once they topple the regime, but the Islamic regime did not stop being revolutionary, because the revolution was not against Pahlavi. The revolution is against the United States and the global order. So phase one, remove Pahlavi from Iran. Phase two, and get Iran. Phase two, remove Israel from the Middle East, because just like Pahlavi was the obstacle in Iran, Israel is the obstacle in the Middle East and North Africa. So just like it was the obstacle towards the Pan-Arabists. So phase two, remove Israel from the Middle East and take the entire Middle East, and now use the resources of all of the Middle East to go for phase three, which is removing the United States and dominating the whole world. And they never got past two because Israel is the obstacle. This is why we say Israel is the wall between this evil and the rest of the world. And this is why we say supporting Israel is supporting the world, because they are trying to destroy the world order as it is, the world order that is, less than 100 years old. And it was brought to us after World War II, and the whole world is so much better because of it. The level of prosperity, peace, stability, and progress that we experience that the world is experiencing in the past 100 years or so is unprecedented. We have seen nothing like it in the 10,000 years of history of civilization, and we owe it to this world order. And everything you enjoy when it comes to peace, stability, rights, freedom, whatever you have anywhere in the world is because of this new world order. And this movement is trying to attack that. So this movement is trying to basically attack the very model that is responsible for all the prosperity and growth and stability we see in the world. And that's why this is a great evil that is not just the enemy of the Iranian people, it's also the enemy of every single person on this planet. And Israel is in the way. Pahlavi was in the way, and they will remove that obstacle, but now Israel is in the way, and that's why we support Israel. I know, sorry, I went for too long. But did that
no,
answer
I
your
mean,
question?
this is very important information that everyone should know, Armin.
Okay.
There is one follow-up question by Jonathan. He says, isn't Sayyid Qutb the guy responsible for starting the modern Islamist jihad ideology?
Yeah, this is, well, modern Islamic, so Islam has always been political since its foundation. So if I say this, it doesn't mean that Islam has just recently been political, but the modern version of political Islam was founded by Sayyid Qutb, and it was imported to Iran through this guy called Nawab Safavi. And but the problem with Shia Islam, so Shia Islam had a feature which was, it was revolutionary, unlike Sunni Islam, because Shia Islam was a revolutionary movement against Sunni Islam. So it had being revolutionary in its DNA. Sunni Islam didn't have that, and so that was the benefit that Shia Islam had it. Because remember, we were in the age of revolutions because of communists, and these Muslims were being inspired by communists being anti-imperialist for them to also be Western global order, and that's why there's a lot of overlap between these communists and these Islamic movements. So but what Sayyid Qutb tried to do with Sunni Islam and failed, Khomeini succeeded with Shia Islam, because Shia Islam has revolutionary tropes and ideas within its DNA. But the problem with Shia Islam is that Shia Islam wouldn't allow you to rule unless you have the Mahdi back. And Khomeini fixed that bug in Shia Islam with his book Walayat Faqih, which means the guardianship of the jurist. So that bug was fixed by Khomeini, giving the mullahs the ability to rule on behalf of the Mahdi before his reappearance.
Thank you, Armin. Maybe one day we can read Khomeini's Risale, all of us together. I know Danny likes that.
Oh, no.
No. I have it, so maybe we can take a look at that. All right, mean old lady. Oh, are there any super chats to read before we move on?
Oh, yes, there is. Well, thank you for asking.
Awesome.
Okay, so and a lot of them are by BT. Thank you, BT. BT saying, we love our Nare. Okay, so that's one super chat. Thank you, BT. Okay, and then we have Ida again. So we love our BT. Oh my God, people are using super chats to show love for each other. Thank you, Ida. And then we have BT again saying, for my birthday, can we get Kafir tattoos? Oh my God. But when is her birthday? We should have we should do something as a group here for BT's birthday. I don't know. Nare, can you give me some ideas on Telegram later? Because it's BT's, we should do something. And happy birthday in advance, BT. Oh, okay. All right. So I know Nare will have some good ideas, right? So I will talk to her about that. And then Ida saying, word Armin. Well, thank you. Oh my God, this is so much motivating. Ida saying Armin is the GOAT. Thank you. And then Mark became a new member. I have imperialism in my mind. I'm saying Mark became a new empire. Mark became a member. Thank you so much, Mark. And then we have Dominic saying Armin is one of the most intelligent people I know. Wow. A literal breeding mainframe computer. We are on the good side of history. Well, thank you, Dominic. What a compliment. Oh my God. And then 2 more super chats. Thank you, guys. That's a lot of super chats for today. Push-up saying, G Armin just plagiarizes Bernard Lewis. And Fuad Ajami, more. Why don't you the kidding, good job. Wow. Okay, Bernard Lewis, what an honor. Okay, thank you. If I sound like him, that's a great honor. Well, actually, I don't know. Never mind. He said something about Iran that I don't like. Okay, but he's considered to be a great thinker. But I just all of a sudden remember something. I'll take that all back. But thank you, Push-ups. I consider that a compliment. And Mark of Reality, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. Saying when the American people elected Trump, it was to give the world order the middle finger. What? When the American people elected Trump? Okay, no, I think you guys are talking about a different world order than the one I have in mind. Okay, that's what the. Okay, yeah, that's what's in the Q post and all the rhetoric. We're rebelling against the banks, Federal Reserve, City of London, etc. Okay, I don't think President Trump believes in all of that stuff at all. Like, that is a whole bunch of conspiracy stuff that I don't think President Trump buys into. A lot of those conspiracy theories are basically anti-Jewish conspiracy theories that Adolf Hitler
QAnon.
QAnon stuff. Yeah. Okay. And thank you. Yes, that is true. Those not a lot of. I wouldn't say a lot of Americans elected Trump. I think there's a minority crazy people who were thinking like that, but I wouldn't say most Americans were voting for Trump for that. I think it was different. It was mostly economic reasons, not that conspiracy theory stuff. And thank you for the generous super chat. And then we have Roman Cabbage saying, "I think BT would like sharp knives for a birthday." Okay, sharp knives it is. Thank you for the recommendation, Roman Cabbage. Okay. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Let's go back to the next topic. And thank you, guys.
All right. Next topic is Mean Old Lady, and her topic is Quincy Institute Covert Infusion into Libertarians.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
All right. Hi.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me turn my fan off. So I clipped you yesterday, or I think it was yesterday or the day before. You went on this epic rant against PBD, and it was like a 5-minute rant. I clipped it. I put it on X. I have like nobody follows me on X. I have like 300 followers, and but it was such a great thing, and I added to it that he's audience captured to his isolationist audience that he has cultivated. And that's it. And then I didn't think about it. I posted it. I pinned it to my profile, and I'm just saying that because at the end of this, you're going to get why. The So this small creator who is just basically debunking Candace Owens, and I'm really in this community online. It's a burgeoning community of people that just debunk her garbage. And there was a post, somebody made a post about Scott Horton. I'm pretty sure I hope you know who he is, but I'll just say for the audience, he is deeply connected with the Quincy Institute. They promote his books. They do, he hosts all their intellectuals on his podcast. He's a huge influence of Dave Smith and the podcast bros kind of a libertarian movement, and Tom Woods, who also is a huge influence on Dave Smith and that kind of circle of people. And both of Tom Woods and Scott Horton are deeply connected with the Quincy Institute, and they all of a sudden, so somebody posted, I've always hated Scott Horton because I see him lying about Ben Gurion with quotes and all this Israeli stuff that he takes out of context. And then I didn't know he was like so connected with the Quincy Institute and Iran and everything, but I saw a 4-hour debate he did on Lex Friedman with Mark Dubowitz, who I'm a super fan of, and Mark completely destroyed him. But it's super educational to see how Scott lies about every single thing, all the things he quotes on studies and reports. He just lies, and Mark actually reads them. He completely destroyed him. So somebody posted this thing about Scott, and it was not about Iran. It wasn't about Israel. I don't even remember, but it was a long thing about how much lies he does. So I just tagged this little creator, tiny creator, less followers than me on X. And I said, like, because she started doing this offshoot on his book and like promoting him, that he's really great. So I tagged her and I was like, yeah, he's not really great. This is like, a Trojan horse. And all of a sudden, two of the huge, like really big influential Quincy Institute people start attacking me on X, and they picked out your clip that I made, and he says, Scott says, prostate yourself before royalty much, and he reposted that rant that you did about PBD. And then also Tom Woods said, don't listen to Scott Woods, but Reza Pahlavi is great, or whatever. He said, hey, don't listen to Scott Horton, but by the way, long live Prince Pahlavi. And it was bizarre. And then I'm getting added to these groups that are like soulless Zionist. I block them. I realized I should have gone in, like added all the people that were in the group as soulless Zionists. They were probably really interesting people, but I blocked the group and I blocked the guy. So too late. But they have been influencing all the libertarian, and I know you don't like conspiracies, but it's really weird that a tiny little creator all of a sudden is like trying to slide into this new burgeoning anti Candace Owen garbage community that just debunks all of her garbage, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden this one tiny little creator, and she starts to like smuggle in these isolationist Quincy Institute connections, and as soon as I like say, hey, that's not cool, all of a sudden like two huge giants in the movement come and attack me. But whatever. Anyway, so for anyone that just doesn't know about Tom Woods and Scott, they are both like intertwined with the Quincy Institute. They host them on their podcasts, and the Quincy Institute promotes their books. And even Tom has put essays from Andrew. I don't know how to say his last name, Basovich. He's like the co-founder of the Quincy Institute. In his books, he's actually so he's getting a royalty from his book sales because he's actually published his essays in like a joint published book or whatever. And especially I don't know if I'm saying it right, Trita Parsi is a regular Scott Horton guest on his podcast, and his work is published on antiwar.com, which he is also the editor of, and he's also the founder of the Libertarian Institute that does a lot of work with the Quincy Institute. So now they are, I don't know if they've previously, Scott or Tom, have attacked you, but now they are, because there's a lot of things like Zionist things and other things they could have chose, but they chose your clip.
Oh, well, send it. Can you can you just put the link to it in the chat so I could later on look into it to see what these people are saying?
So the link to what you want, the link to all the different like threads that there were there.
No, just one.
I'll just link.
Just link to these people, the video that you posted, and these people are responding to it. Where they responded. Yeah. Okay. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, so I'm sorry. I hope that I didn't like make a problem for you, but they're really like horrible. And anyone that I love being hated on by anti-Western people. This is good. It means that
by the right people. Yeah. So I just want to say, if anyone has not watched the 4-hour Lex Friedman debate that Mark Dubowitz did with Scott Horton about Iran, it is a master class on everything Iran, like everything nuclear proliferation. And Mark Dubowitz is just a genius. I'm a super fan. So I just wanted to put that out for the audience to go and watch that after this, obviously. So thank you.
Also post a link to that too in the if you can. Both both the X post that you had and also this interview. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff has to say some things about this.
Just real quick for those, a background. The Quincy Institute was very much created in 2019 by both Charles Koch and George Soros with the stated goal of undermining U.S. interventionist foreign policy. Just so you understand who these people are and where they come from. They get a lot of their donations from both radical leftists and or like libertarian isolationist donors.
Okay. All right. Are there any super chats? If not, we can move on to the next topic.
Yep, we have one super chat by Push Up saying, and Trump was going to expose round earth hoax. Oh, wow. Thank you, Push Ups. Thank you. Yes. I mean, I bet you a lot of those kind of people were hoping, the same people who were, QAnon people were hoping that Trump would do that as well. Yeah. There's a lot of overlap between them. And thank you. All right. So who's next, or what's the next topic?
Next person is Tammy, and we're talking about analysis of Trump's post from yesterday. So I would say
Analysis
Iran.
of Trump's post from yesterday. Okay. Hello, Tammy.
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 Hi, I'm just this, so sorry.
That's okay. No worries. Hi.
So I wanted to know the analysis of the post from yesterday that Trump made regarding the talks and what the consensus was, because online it's overwhelmingly negative and memes showing Trump bowing and kissing the mullah's feet.
Right. So, so I mean, the main thing that I want to bring up is, first of all, this is exactly what people were saying right before the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, and then moments after Khamenei was dead. Right. So, I like to be skeptical. I'm not certain at all regarding what's going to happen, but I do think people should withhold judgment instead of just jumping to conclusions, because that's exactly what they did before Operation Epic Fury, and they were wrong. Right? That's one. Two, the main thing that I'm seeing, that the two most important part of President Trump's message was that the blockade will remain. Right? The blockade will remain, and also that President Trump is, if he is looking for any deal, he's looking for a deal that would guarantee that the Islamic regime will never have any nuclear weapon ever again. So does that mean that this is I'm 100% certain that the outcome of this is good? No, but these are the points that I want to highlight to the people who are nervous about this. Right? President Trump also just posted a more recent post on Truth Social, comparing what he's going to do to President Obama, saying that it's not at all he's not at all looking for a similar deal, or he's not going to be releasing cash to the regime. And the Strait of Hormuz, he keeps insisting that the Strait of Hormuz will be reopened, and one way or another, the Islamic Republic will never have nuclear weapons, right? I mean, based on what I know by the Islamic Republic, the only way to guarantee all of that is to just get rid of the Islamic Republic. Nothing else would achieve that result. Nothing else would achieve that result, right? One, and I think President Trump knows that, right? I think, like, what are we talking? Are we talking about the idea that President Trump thinks that if the Islamic Republic pinky promises that they're not going to enrich uranium, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, he's going to be like, okay, that's good, and I think that you guys are going to, abide by this even after I'm not in the White House? Like, I don't think, like, that would be ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. Obviously, what I prefer right now is for the blockade to stay on, but also on top of that, arming the Iranian people and kinetic military operations on the Islamic Republic. However, I understand why sometimes there might be a need for a delay. And the minimum is that the blockade shouldn't. So the reason why the blockade is not enough is the blockade is devastating the Islamic Republic. So if they don't remove that, we're still moving forward with weakening the Islamic Republic, as long as they don't remove that, right? But I would be very comfortable with just holding on to the blockade and not doing any military operations, because you get a lot better return on your investment. You will be able to weaken the Islamic Republic without any military operations just by doing that. The problem is that the Iranian people are really suffering. So that's why, on top of the blockade, I would want military operations and arming the Iranian people. That's the issue. The Iranian people are really suffering, and that's why the blockade alone is not enough. But if the blockade is removed, that's when we know that we're moving to the Islamic Republic actually strengthening itself and recovering from all the damages from Operation Epic Fury. One thing that I'm considering, and you guys could let me know what you think about this, is that it might have been that they were going to go for military operations on Friday, and the reason why they delayed it was because the Arab countries around the Persian Gulf, especially UAE and Saudi Arabia, were just not ready. And there might have been a delay because they were not ready to defend themselves, because they maybe, like, for example, UAE is like, okay, do the military operations, but we're afraid of the Islamic Republic going all out and just basically unleashing everything they have left upon us. And it seems like we are the main ones who are getting fucked here. Like, everybody, like Saudi Arabia and Israel, are not getting that much of a damage. It's just basically everything is just basically raining down upon us. So you need to give us more time to defend ourselves, or you need to bring more assets here to defend us before you do this. So that might be the case. Another thing is that, again, this is just thinking about it. I'm not saying this is it. It also might be about the Hajj. The Hajj is just started, right? And the Hajj is a major source of revenue for Saudi Arabia. And starting the military operations right at the time of the Hajj would be devastating for Saudi Arabia. So it also might be the case for that Saudi Arabia is like, you need to wait for the Hajj to be over before you do this, right? So it also might be that President Trump is just basically just waiting, delayed it so that the Hajj is over, and then they're going to do the military operation. This is another thing to consider. I do want to see what other people. But by the way, did that respond? Did I even answer your question before I look at? I would want to see some people putting twos in the chat to see what they have to say. But did that answer your question before we go to other people, Tammy? Oh yeah.
Yeah, it did. Like, there's other factors that are involved that people aren't considering, which you're bringing forth, which helps to, like, lay the groundwork around the issue, which is really good. And, like, through you and Goldie, I've learned so much, and I've been able to teach so much to people out here in BC.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Okay, so actually, Sketch's topic was the good deal, like about the deals, and he wants to speak next. So maybe we can overlap the two. Sketch, is that okay?
Yeah, he said okay in the chat.
Okay, go for it. Your turn.
I want to outline 3 good deals. You're going to say it's impossible. There cannot be 3 good deals. These are going to be the best deal, the okay deal, and the, you know what, I'll take it deal. The first deal is that the elements of the IRGC that are the political wing make a deal with Trump, and they say, look, we're going to surrender, we're going to move to France, we're going to declare the rest of the IRGC being led by a non-Grand Ayatollah, and this whole thing that they're running being unconstitutional and a coup by the IRGC on the constitutional government. That would be great, right? That would be a good deal. You guys get to go to France, fuck off to France. I don't care. You free Iran. You know what? The IRGC can go find you if they want to. I don't even care. Just get out and give us the legal permission to go in. Would that be a good deal? So declaring the what was it, the Gayatollah Autopeni to not be legitimate because of the things in the Constitution that make him illegitimate, like a legal framework for these people to escape, probably with some money. I don't know. I think Iranians, they would, kind of be like not great about it, but if it leads to us having a legal framework to go in, go for it. That's one good deal. I'm not saying that's just going to happen.
The Ayatollah leave to Europe, and then what happens with IRGC?
No. Because the politicians would say that Mustafa is not a real Ayatollah, and he is part of a coup against the Constitution because the Constitution would not allow him to be an Ayatollah. So he would still be stuck. It would be the political wing saying the IRGC and the clerics did a coup.
Oh.
So you guys have permission to go in, and we're going to step back because we can't manage them.
Well,
you understand what I mean?
Something that there's like, when it comes to the Islamic Republic, what they have written in the law is irrelevant. Like, it's irrelevant. Like, the written law is meaningless.
Yes. It's about Armin, check Truth Social.
Oh.
I had 2 more. Oh, am I getting cut mid thing again?
No, I'm sorry. You can go ahead, but Armin, I want you to check Truth.
Okay,
but go on, Sketch. Sorry.
Go on, Sketch.
Okay, the second deal is, look, we're making a deal, but this deal isn't a deal. We're giving the Arab partners time to shore up their defenses, and we're letting Hajj pass. And that's the whole framing of the deal. It's a deal in that we agree to a memorandum of understanding, but it's only to pass this time. And once this time passes, we take the opportunity that you will always eventually one of the 32 commanders is going to do something crazy and say, aha, you broke the deal.
So quickly, Sketch, I just wanted to describe to people what President Trump just posted. He posted an image of basically a bomb attached to a plane, ready to be deployed in the sky, and on the bomb it writes, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." So that's what President Trump is just posted. Okay, thank you, Nara. All right, go. Yes, thank you.
That was my second deal. That the deal is just a memorandum of understanding until the end of Hajj and the preparation of Gulf partners. And once that's done, one of the IRGC is going to do or say something stupid, make some kind of threat, do something, we can use any execution to say, oh, they weren't supposed to be executing. That was supposed to stop. It's part of the deal. So bam, we start bottling them. When Hajj is over, everything's short up. The third deal, this is the worst of the good deals, is that the memorandum of understanding is a way to get the ships out. And we're just gonna have yeah, sure. You wanna do some spinning on those little centrifuges? Sure, pal. Sure. Just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Sure. Get those ships out. No. We gotta deal. Get those ships out. The ships out. Okay, start bombing.
Okay.
That's the third deal.
Okay, the fourth deal is no deal, and because
that's my favorite.
Yeah, that's your favorite. That's my favorite. And here's what people need to remember. Because people are talking online as if the deal was signed. Okay, first of all, a memorandum of understanding is not a deal, right? And not even that has been signed. So let's just step back a little bit and understand how far away we are from a deal. Okay, we have the finalizations of coming up with an MOU to then use the MOU to figure out the days that we're going to spend time on to figure out whether or not we're going to have a deal. Okay, so we are so far away from a deal, we don't even have an MOU. We are apparently at the finalization of coming up with an MOU that will start a path towards maybe one day getting a deal. That's where we are, and people are talking about it as if we've already signed a deal. We haven't even signed an MOU, so just keep that in mind.
Thank you. There are several people who want to speak on this, and we'd love to hear their stances on this as well. Yusuf, go ahead. Yusuf.
I know this is off topic, but is okay if I refute Mehdi Hassan?
No, we're in the middle of a topic. We're doing this segment. You have to add a new topic if you want to talk about that.
All right. Okay. Yeah, put a 1 with your topic, and we'll add you to the list if we have time.
Okay. However, I do have a question, but
no, this is not a question period. This is about this topic. Is your question about this topic?
Well, I just wanted. Well, it's related to this topic, but how do we provide the armory to the Iranian people without the weapons accidentally going to the IRGC?
Okay, put a 1 in the chat because it's a different topic. Okay, put a 1 in the chat and put your topic there. Okay. So
okay, Danny, you can talk about the deal.
Okay, so about reasons why the attack got delayed. I think that's related, right? Okay. This is my very much uneducated guess, but there are serious benefits to not setting in stone ahead of time a time at which you'll attack. So if we suspected that they would attack on Friday, then so did the Islamic Republic. And if on every day of the last week we thought it would happen tonight, then so did the Islamic Republic. So if you just act like you're about to attack every day over the course of weeks, your enemy can't maintain a state of full readiness for that long. And this also permits you to react if your enemies inexplicably meet in the same place for the 50th time, or to weather or whatever else you need to react to. And my understanding is that this is how these kinds of massive airstrikes usually go, that you send your pilots in the air and call them off last minute again and again until one day you don't.
Danny, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. And also, this is exactly what we saw before Operation Epic Fury, because there was a day that was supposed to attack, was supposed to happen, and then nope. And then it was a different day. Okay, the day that we were all like, everybody was like, "Oh my God, they're attacking!" The Islamic Republic was like, "Okay, move it." Like, apparently it's happening, and they moved everything around, and they showed their hands, and there's so much intelligence gathered, and Americans and Israelis were like, "Whoop, whoop, whoop," and taking and just eating up all the intelligence that they were gathering from the Islamic Republic, moving assets around, and like, "Oh my God, this is so much beautiful information they were gathering," and then they were like, "Psych, no attack." Okay, and the Islamic Republic, what the fuck? And they got all that information for free, and then they attacked that a different day. So that was, yes, exactly.
I was actually just writing in the chat that this is the emotional roller coaster that we went through in February as well.
Yes.
But
yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Jose, go ahead.
Someone brought up the art of war the other day, and I want to bring up two lines that I think are pertinent to this, if there's going to be any signatures or not. The first line in the basics part of the Sun Tzu's Art of War states, all warfare is based on deception. Okay, so all right, chill. Okay, the second one I want to bring up to you is about 5 lines down. It says, the clever commander imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. That's pretty much what we've been seeing from the very beginning from the American and Israeli action. So, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a deal whatsoever. No, they haven't signed anything. They just agreed to discuss, is all they did. And that's not even on a signature yet. I also, Nari, took a look at the Truth Social, and I have been laughing behind my back because that was like perfect. So we'll see what happens. But just keep in mind those two phrases from Sun Tzu because they're very relevant to, I think, what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you so much. But I feel like we see all of these and we completely understand the logic behind everything, the military movements, the history of everything. But I think Iranians in general, because of the history of betrayal, we keep asking ourselves, are we just giving ourselves false hope? You know, is this just... So that's the reason that we're kind of stuck in it, that we're not, I mean, I personally myself, I'm not always able to be logical about this stuff because of the historically all the betrayals and everything that's happened to us, you know what I mean? But I also understand at the same time all the logic behind everything that we're talking about, that it just doesn't make sense with the refueling and the military movements and all of that. It just doesn't make sense for nothing to happen and a deal be signed, you know? So it's like we're just stuck there, most of us. Okay, Blake.
So just really quick,
one second. Nara,
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
think, Nara, I don't think you're being illogical. I think being skeptical is being logical. I know there are people here who disagree with me, but you have to always be skeptical. You know, so I think your skepticism is valid. But yeah.
But also that's the thing. Like Shadi mentioned something very important. If they want to do, I saw something about a 60-day negotiation or something. If they want to do something that long term, that's going to be pretty much fatal to a lot of people in Iran.
Yeah.
And that's another type of pressure that we're thinking about, that the longer this goes, the more suffering there will be.
Exactly. And Blake, sorry for interrupting you. I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to say Danny and Nadare both bring up really good points. The main thing I wanted to say is that I'm not questioning Trump's strategy in general, but I do think his post yesterday was poorly phrased and kind of a mistake because really didn't give him much of an advantage in whatever he's trying to pull, and it really demoralizes the rest of us when he makes it sound like he's about to sign some kind of a deal the way that he did. So, I'm sure he is trying to do something sneaky, but I think that post, he just really didn't need to make it.
Well, we don't know. We're dealing with very limited information, though, from our perspective, right? So we don't know we can't tell really from our perspective what is needed and what is not needed, right? Maybe, like, for example, if you had access to the information that he did, then maybe you were like, oh my God, this was so needed. So I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying we just don't know. Right? You're muted.
Yeah. All right, Sketch, you're next. And then I think we have to move on after because we have so many new topics. Sketch.
What I was going to say is, like, we got to know who the target of this bombing strike would be. Like, if we are on edge, if we're a little paranoid about what's going to happen, we know we're not the targets. We're outside Iran. So, the paranoia that's hitting us is not the same thing. Even the people in Iran, I'm sure they're very paranoid about what's going to happen, but it's not the same paranoia that the people that could get hit are feeling. So if this kind of back and forth is driving us crazy, you got to understand that it is 100% driving the IRGC crazy. They have no idea what's going on with the memo, what's going on with the deal. Every post contradicts the previous post because you could tell yourself, hey, I'm not understanding. This is driving me crazy. Okay, imagine you're an IRGC and you could get one of these bombs on you. The paranoia that the IRGC, and I don't feel bad for them, they deserve all the suffering and paranoia they get. But if this is driving us nuts, imagine what it's doing to them. So that's why I'm saying, like, there's good deals in here, and I don't think they're gonna get I don't think they're gonna get a deal that's good for them at all.
All right. Thank you, Sketch. Okay, Jonathan, are you available? Jonathan wants to talk about the Houston Manifesto, but he can't use his mic, so he said he's going to write in the chat.
I think Jeffrey also had it too.
Oh, did I miss Jeffrey's too? Yeah. Okay, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, it was a 1.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I already have your 1. It's a little bit later.
Okay. So what was the topic again? Sorry.
The Houston Manifesto, but I don't know if Jonathan is ready. Jonathan, are you here? You can write in the chat what you want if you have a question or something about it.
Jonathan?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. I was just thinking, if you just Google the topic, it might be a reason why we find so few left-leaning people supporting the Iranian cause now. It's something that already started post 9/11. You can Google the Houston Manifesto. It was a group of left-leaning people who wanted to reorientate the left because they were leaning too much into, say, this anti-imperialism stuff, ignoring local dictators and that, and cozying up too much with Islamists. And Christopher Hitchens was one of the people who signed it.
A leftist? Christopher Hitchens signed what? A manifesto? A leftist manifesto?
It's called the Houston Manifesto. EUSTON. Just Google it. You'll find out.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Let me see. The Houston Manifesto is a political declaration published in 2006 by a group of British left-wing academics, journalists, and activists, such as Nick Cohen and Norman Garros. So the goal, it aimed to create a fresh political alignment by drawing a sharp line between the authentic democratic left and elements of modern left that the authors felt had lost their moral compass. It emerged from frustration over the dominant anti-war discourse surrounding the Iraq War. The authors criticized other left-wingers for making excuses for terrorists. Okay, Ba'athists and Islamist extremists simply because they opposed Western foreign policy. So okay, so this seems like it's an attempt to save the left from being anti-West, right? That's what it sounds like to me. It seemed like it was
Yes.
a good attempt.
So what I was okay. So what I was wondering, the original one failed, but one I was wondering if so for example, this group could try to resell some of the things back to left-leaning people by using the core principles of that manifesto.
Okay, so these are the core principles. Okay, it strongly rejected cultural relativism, asserted that human rights are universal and tyrannical regimes must always be condemned. So that's good. I like that. Liberal interventionism. I like that part. Supported the idea that the international community has a duty to intervene, including militarily, if a state tortures or slaughters its own citizens. I like that part. It's also anti-Americanism, so reaffirmed support for the U.S. as a stable democracy, opposing reflexive anti-Americanism while still allowing room for criticizing U.S. policy. I like that one. And this is the part that I can't get behind. So far everything was good. This is the part that I can't get behind. Strongly backed a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, and condemned the resurgence of anti-Semitism disguised as anti-Zionism. So everything was good up until this part. Judah and Samaria is part of Israel, and Gaza is part of Israel, and there's never going to be fuck the two-state solution. That all of that area is Israel, including parts of the Golan Heights. But other than that, seems pretty good.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting looking at the reviving everything as it is. Just some of the core ones. There were reasons why it didn't work out initially. But anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a good it's a good document to study. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
All right, 2 responses here. Samantha is first.
I put the 2 because I thought you said Chris Hedges, who is a very anti-Western, far-left, scary person. So.
No, I said Christopher Hitchens.
Okay.
All right, Sketch is next.
By the way, Chris, we all owe an apology to Christopher Hitchens because he was right about Iraq. We all thought that many people say like Christopher Hitchens was right about everything except Iraq, but he ended up being right about Iraq. So apologies to him. But who was next? Sorry.
Yes. What I was gonna say is that what's happening now is that what is known as the cultural Marxism and the long march through the institutions of the school. I forgot the name of the school, but there is this particular school that they named for this. The School of Cultural Marxism, they call it. They like to infiltrate institutions. One of the institutions that they infiltrated was the Democrat Party, because the Democrat Party now is not what it was. It's more of a Marxist, more of a communist. Frankfurt School. Thank you very much, Jeff. Oh my God, Johnny on the spot over here. Well, Jeffrey on the spot. Jeffrey on the spot. But the Frankfurt School, it's this ideology that is more insidious and it's more manipulative. And it also took some of the more libertarian, the liberty part of the Democrats, it took that away. And it turned it into something else. I know what makes Armin kind of like more of a centrist and kind of like not like the Democrats or the Republicans too much, like by what I've heard, is that there are some liberty-related things that traditionally are on the left. like classical liberalism, you would say. But I believe that these people, these Marxists and cultural Marxists, have removed the classic liberalism from the left. And I think that's not only true, but evident, because if you look at speeches, Trump doesn't have original speeches. He spices up old Bill Clinton speeches, old Nancy Pelosi speeches, old Bernie Sanders speeches. You can pull up a Bernie Sanders speech from 20 years ago and hit play, and you say, wait a minute, I've heard Trump say that. It's going against everything they say now, right? If anything, I have a problem with Trump for being a 90s Democrat. He's a little bit too much on the left for my taste. I'm a little bit more hawkish. I'm a little bit more, law and ordery, I would be hitting the ground harder on the local stuff. So I understand what this type of discussion is trying to bring back. And I would welcome a little balance in the system, the removal of these cultural Marxists that insidiously have turned what used to be classical liberalism versus traditional conservatism, and has turned it into just outright communism against everything and anything that disagrees.
Okay, two things. When it comes to me being left or right, I am I consider myself very, very right leaning on economic stuff. Okay, on social stuff, I am probably center left. But economic stuff, I'm very right leaning. Also, classical liberal values, I don't consider it to be anti-conservative ideas. I think a lot of conservative ideas are founded in classical liberal values. Okay. But okay.
I would say in modern perception is where that changes. Like you're probably I would say you're absolutely right about everything you just said, but the larger populace and their larger the way they perceive this is a little different now than in your correct view of what this has been through the history.
Okay.
All right. We can read some super chats and then we'll move on to the next topic. Who is Jeff?
Okay. Super chat. We have Effie giving us $3 super sticker. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And from Israel, Halzion Usher. I think I'm almost sure I mispronounced that. Sorry. Saying the march through institutions was originally Antonio Gramsci. Am I pronouncing it right? Gramsci's idea. Okay, I need to write that down. Look that up. And thank you. Thank you.
It's Antonio Gramsci there, Armin.
Gramsci, did I pronounce it? Okay, thank you. Hold on. I'm going to write that down. Thank you. And okay, what's the next topic?
Okay, the next topic, Jeffrey, general situation report of things in the Persian Gulf.
Oh, so by the way, that guy, just a quick explanation. That guy was the leader of the Italian Communist Party, the one-time leader of the Italian Communist Party. Okay, so sorry, what was it again? Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was just looking that up.
Yes, general situation report of things in the Persian Gulf.
Thank you,
General
guys. Just real quick.
situational report on things in the Persian Gulf. Okay, right.
Yes.
Yeah, just where things kind of sit, so everybody can kind of help kind of center people. So, with regards to CENTCOM's activity and statements, we have U.S. forces hit 100 plus commercial vessels, not just in the past 24 hours. It's gone up to 100 plus commercial vessels redirected under ongoing maritime blockades of Iranian ports. You still have two terror strike groups, both Abraham Lincoln and George W. Bush is in the area, amphibious ready groups. That's USS Tripoli plus 31st MEU. That's like the military group, Marines. You have 20 warships, most including guided missile destroyers, etc. About 200 aircraft total across the mission, fighters, tankers, ISR, the S-3, Sentry, and all that. This includes sustained air refueling and strike support that's been running for weeks and months. The B-52s, B-1s, and B-2 bomber waves are maintaining where they're at. They haven't gone down. They haven't gone up. Their posture is sustained high. One minor note: there was a flight regarding flight tracking, and this is for Kat. Thank you, Kat, for maintaining your eyes on that. A C-17 Globemaster had an emergency divert over Romania while it was heading towards CENTCOM's AOR. That said, it was more likely routine logistics. This wasn't like a combat search. So, CENTCOM's commander, Admiral Brad Cooper's quote on the milestone service are very effective. They're executing the mission with precision and professionalism. Blockade stays in full force. White House statements, as we kind of touched on, Trump posted yesterday, an agreement has been largely negotiated with Iran. That said, this just like today, well, I just want to say thank you for attention to this matter with like GBUs underneath strike aircraft. So, there's the strategic deception and denial that is Trump, President Trump is so, well known for. There's no new tankers, aircraft, or bomber moves, at least at the time that I did the assessment. Overall, you have about 50,000 troops in theater. You have massive air power and blockade machine are all still humming at the highest level. So it's not like anything's moved away. With regards to the Iranian regime, what the mode of leadership's actions kind of signal, at least when I did the assessment prior to the show, it very much, internal unity, like attempts at trying to reestablish internal unity plus crackdown. So Prezhkin, forgive me if I, fuck their names. I don't want to pronounce them right. Galibaf and the rest of the, Ping Pong Head and EJ, all put out coordinated statements to emphasize like one leader, one path. They're trying to like reform the regime, like homogenate amongst the regime remnants. You have, diplomatic and regime posturing. They definitely have ramped up their internal security. Mass arrest report in Tehran, other cities, to try and shut down protest, chatter, and dissent, which I'm sure Armin and Nari and everybody who has family there clearly knows. Proxy actions. So Hezbollah is for our Israeli allies. Seemed to be the main player in the past 24 hours. They fired some rockets and drones at IDF positions in southern Lebanon, northern Israel, if I remember correctly. They claimed a couple successful strikes on advanced Israeli comm systems and other targets, slow-level and mid-level harassment. Houthis and other proxies have been making threats out of Yemen, at least when I did the assessment. There's no real activity there. The IDF response was very heavy in response to what Hezbollah did. The IDF hammered the shit out of the, hammer back pretty hard, multiple waves of airstrikes across Tyre, Bekaa Valley, Nab, and some other southern Lebanon areas. They hit about 100 plus targets, including tunnels, infrastructure, and rocket launch sites to further degrade and eliminate elements of Hezbollah, the ones that are left. They reported dozens of casualties in their bomb and battle damage assessment. So including some of the, I don't want to call medic personnel, let's just say people who bandage terrorists and Hezbollah personnel. That was from overnight till today. Gaza follow through, so separate. And this was actually brought up by some of our Israeli friends yesterday. Separate but related, you have continual airstrikes in central Gaza. So I'm not even going to try to pronounce those. As part of broader ops. So what's it overall mean? Right now, the regime remnants is trying to play defense talks and try to bump up internal control, while proxies, mostly Hezbollah, try to create leverage and nuance. Israel's not waiting around, is pounding the shit out of the proxies right now to keep them honest. And as you've seen with regards to President Trump's post, he's getting ready. It seems like he's getting ready to respond. Right? I mean, there's a reason he posted that. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. That one's for Sophie, because if the trigger's pulled, that'll be the end of these mullahs.
Thank you, Jeffrey. You're awesome. A lot of people appreciated that, by the way, in the YouTube chat.
Thank you, Jeffrey. All right, we don't have any responses to this. Do you want to read some super chats? I know we'll move on.
Yes, Shauna gave us a super chat. Thank you, Shauna, saying, we repent, Christopher Hitchens. Here are heathen prayers. Amen. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you for the super chat. That was cool. Okay, I miss Hitchens. Okay, what's the next topic?
All right, Tarun. Tarun wants to talk about vegetarianism linked to elitism.
Oh my god. Vegetarianism linked to elitism? Oh no.
Yes.
Okay.
And we already have a
I think-
response, so go on.
Okay.
Nare, I think I already texted in the chat about my question. I thought you were gonna ask. I already taught I wrote like multiple messages about this exact topic and the question in the chat. I thought you would. I mean, if you want,
Okay.
I can stay, but
Do you want to type it in right now, and then I will read it for you?
Yeah,
oh, okay. I mean, you can maybe ask some of the others. I think Dijal.
No, don't guys,
Well,
don't
move
make it
on.
difficult. Don't make it difficult for our mods, please. Okay, they can't have they can't keep track of everything,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Tarun, let's move
So-
on. You write your question, and then we'll come back to you, okay?
Okay. I mean, unless you're okay with me just talking about it, is that fine as well?
Okay.
Okay, very
Like,
quickly
who's
then.
gonna cover-
Whatever you were going to type, ask your question. Go for it.
All right. So I was just talking in the chat about how vegetarianism has typically been linked to a lot of supremacist and elitist ideologies. First of all, vegetarianism and veganism themselves act like proselytizing religions that try to force themselves on others, force people to stop eating meat, and when they're not being proselytizing, they have vegan and vegetarian supremacy. Instead of saying everyone should stop eating meat, they often think that they're superior morally, physically, and everything more than people who eat meat, and they try to show this off like, oh, I'm a vegan, I'm stronger than. I've seen a lot of that stuff. So that's enough. As if that's not enough, veganism and at least vegetarianism, I don't know about veganism, but vegetarianism has been used as a tool for many supremacist and elitist groups such as the Brahmins, the Nazis. The Nazis believed that Aryans should be vegetarians because that would prove that they're superior to all the other races because they care more about animals. That's actually what Heinrich Himmler, that is Hitler's right-hand man, believed, that Aryan people of the white Aryan race, should eat only vegetables, so that shows that they care about animals, which they believed is a special trait that the Aryans have, because like Vedic religion has also had vegetarianism for this sake, so they think that because of that, Aryans should be vegetarian to show that they're superior to everyone else. And in India itself, Brahmins used to believe that they should be vegetarians, that they are spiritually and morally superior to all the other castes, so for that sake, they shouldn't eat meat that's impure, and what's it called again? They should not eat meat because it's impure. And while all the other castes, like Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, they can eat meat because they're lesser people and stuff. And women were told in ancient India to be vegetarian because this showed a Brahminical control over them and their autonomy, because eating meat would mean a kind of freedom for women, but women are supposed to be pure, so they're supposed to not eat meat. This is a way of controlling women, not a way of edifying them, by the way, that the Brahminical system used. Along with this, in many traditions, meat has been seen as impure, and purity culture is something that of which many times creates elitism and supremacy, and is a tool typically of the patriarchy to show that women should be pure, and this was a way, of course, of controlling them rather than giving them power and telling them that if they have sex with even one person beyond marriage, and it taints their character. So this purity culture has been used for lots of misogyny. Purity culture has obviously been used to mock people, moralism,
Okay,
I'm
let's wrap it up,
superior.
Tarun, so we can respond.
Veganism and vegetarianism has been used for that. More than just proselytizing the ideologies themselves, vegetarianism has been used for supremacist ideologies of certain groups being vegetarian, so they're superior to meat eaters. So I find this to be a threat to the Enlightenment values and stuff. So I just want to learn about your little talk, your little point about
Well,
that.
as an Iranian, I can vouch for Iranians that you cannot take away our kebabs from us. So that's not happening. I'm just saying. All right, Sherry, you can respond.
One thing before that, Nare, is I actually looked at Google, and this actually made me very disappointed. Israel and Iran both are having an increase of vegetarianism and a lower of meat consumption, while India is facing the opposite, which is good. Israel and Iran both seem to be going
the
on the
Iranian
bad.
people.
You know why Iran has
go
has
on.
a decrease in meat consumption? Because a pound of meat is freaking 20 million tuman or something like that. That's why
Yes.
Iran
Oh, yeah.
has a decreased meat consumption right now. But
So it's not because, oh, the animals, I don't care about the circle of life, and it's not because of that.
no, it's not.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being smarter than my people. Thank you. No, I'm not being racist against black people like you think. This is just like I'm not going to talk too much about that. Okay.
Okay, Armin, go ahead.
Okay, just 2 points about veganism and vegetarianism. First of all, I think it's very dangerous to people's health to be vegan or vegetarian. Even though, yes, first of all, there are ways to be vegetarian and healthy. It's very difficult. Veganism, no fucking way. Maybe vegetarianism if you try, but even if there are ways, most people are not going to do the work as required to get all the nutritions that they need if they're vegan and vegetarian. So it's really bad for your health. Just eat meat. It's actually is irresponsible to promote that, knowing that most people are not going to do the effort, the work that is required to make sure that they're getting all their nutrition. I eat meat and I'm having a difficult time making sure I get every single nutrition that a body needs. So if you want to remove meat from your diet, it becomes a lot more difficult. And people are busy, they're working. Any vegan or vegetarian that tells you it's easy, they must be, I don't know, they're full of shit. Again, I'm not saying if you want to be a vegan or be a vegetarian, you should be able to do that, but I'm thinking promoting it is irresponsible given the risk to people's health. Also, as somebody who loves meat, eats meat, and doesn't and would not promote veganism or vegetarianism, I do not appreciate people. I think it's disgusting that vegans and vegetarians make it seem like we don't care about animals. I very much care about animal rights, but I think that actually vegans and vegetarians have been very horrible for animal rights. Because to me, animal rights has to be about the conditions that the animals are in. It's about how they're treated. Because unlike humans and unlike elephants and chimpanzees and whales, most other animals are not self-aware and they don't get upset about the same things that we get upset about. A cow has no understanding of death and what death means. It doesn't stress them out that they're going to die. It doesn't cause social anxiety among cows that some cows are at some point are not there anymore. So okay, you don't read about it doesn't distress cows that they die. Okay, what distresses cows is if they're tortured, if they're mistreated. And I think the obsession over not killing animals, which the animals don't mind because they don't even fucking know that they're alive and they don't know what death even means. They don't, so they're not upset over that. Animals get upset if they're mistreated, if they're tortured. They understand pain, they understand fear, they understand anxiety. They don't understand death. Most of them, at least, don't understand death. So fighting for something that the animals themselves don't appreciate is retarded, and it takes away attention from what animal rights should be about, which is the conditions that they're in and the way they're treated. And I think making like now the vegans and vegetarian movements, what they have done, they have hurt animals, because now globally when people think about animal rights, they think that, oh my god, somebody's going to take my steak away from me, and they're like, fuck animal rights. So it has made so many people globally not care about animal rights. If all of that effort and money and resources that was spent on trying to get people not to eat meat was focused on lobbying to pass laws where the conditions that the places that animals are being kept were improved, there would be so much less animal abuse in the world. And that's a lot of wasted resources, a lot of wasted attention, and also turning a lot of people off globally away from animal rights. So summarizing, veganism and vegetarianism movement, not individual people, but that movement has been a curse upon animal rights, in my opinion. Anyways, that's it.
Thank you so much. And on that note, Armin, I wanted to raise awareness on the dogs that are being currently abused in Skid Row in Los Angeles, a city that's been run by, many so-called freedom-loving and, animal rights activist city. But there are numerous amounts of dogs on Skid Row that are being chained, and drugs are being tested on them, and nobody really says anything about that. So just wanted to mention that as well. We have some responses to this. Sherry, you're first to go.
Forgive me, Armin. Usually I am very sweet and kind and loving, but not at this moment. Tarun was trying to talk about how the vegetarians and the veganists, they're elitist towards those who eat meat. And I just would like to make a community note and remind everyone of Tarun's own words when he came here his first day and told all of us how India was the most moral country in the whole world. So it's kind of cute that he wants to complain.
Why are you still talking about
Hey,
that?
don't interrupt her, please. Yes, you could put a 2 in the chat. Go on, Sherry.
I just think it's cute how he wants to come here and talk about elitism. And then just a real quick question, if Tarun really wants to talk about it, where do all of the internet scammers come from?
Oh wow. Okay, I put Tarun in the list to respond to that in a little bit, but let's see what Jeff has to say. But let's be quick, okay? Because I want to move on to other topics. You're muted. Yes, Jeff,
Oh,
your turn.
yeah, real quick to close us out of the vegan thing. So, I mean, Armin kind of nailed it. Human beings are omnivores. You can see that in our biomechanical structure. Our eyes face forward in part to jump the distance to our prey. We have eye teeth to rip and tear animal protein. And like plant protein, when it comes to human beings, the biological value of it absolutely sucks. I mean, I could go and be more animated. I won't because, it anyway. Like beans and lentils to soy, which is like a lot of what vegans push for. Their V scores between 40 and like 74, which means you can't digest it because we don't have multi-chamber stomachs like a cow. As far as like, again, the assessment on the overall movement, again, Armin and Nari are right, and the rest of them are right on the money. It is disproportionately pushed by privileged, usually upper middle class, privileged white bitches in college who, very much paraphrasing Robot Chicken here in the Cow Apocalypse, which I'll post in the thing in case you want to laugh. I want you to admit it's not about meat. It's about being a contrarian and narcissist, and not eating meat is a way to separate yourself from other people in the goal of me, feeling morally superior to other people. And that's pretty much what it is. I mean, they don't give a shit at all about animal rights or animal, like having empathy for animals or the ethical treatment of animals is not a bad thing. That's not what these people are doing. When you have some like lower upper class privileged bitch break into like a fucking, I don't know, KFC holding a chicken. This legit happened at Syracuse. Don't you dare do this. She literally said that KFC is worse than the fucking Holocaust, and that the chicken is her daughter so she could be the center of attention. Those people are absolute scum. They could take 20 showers and it wouldn't get them fucking clean. Either from their, I know they don't like oil. I used to ask them like what the fuck their problem is with soap, but I mean, I'll leave it there. Very well put, Armin. Very well put. Now I want to eat, how do you say it? Kebab? Now I'm hungry.
Yeah, kebabs there, Jeff.
Okay, Jim, you're actually next to respond, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'll summarize this whole veganism thing quick just by this. I mean, the argument is old as Aristotle for going back 2,000 years. What separates the rock from the plant, from the beast, from the human being? The answer is not just self-awareness, but moral restraint. Human beings, we have the capacity to not kill and harm our fellow human beings and other animals, to let the environment prosper and to let civilization prosper. But in the animal kingdom, you will not see, most cases, other animals respecting other animals and plants. You're going to see them devour each other for their own personal advantage. That's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you, Jim. Clill?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Okay, so I'm vegan, by the way. I feel personally attacked.
No. So let me be clear. We're not at, so I think
Yeah,
that
I know.
promoting, no, just really quickly, okay? My statement was against the vegan movement, not, I made it clear, not against individual people's choices. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not talking specifically about you. I'm talking about the. No, I'm not really offended, obviously. Um. Also, I'm not a vegan. Okay, I'm not like the annoying people that you're talking about. But so 99% of people that avoid eating meat. I mean, it's mostly just a personal decision between people.
Your
I mean, I
audio is a
think.
little bit hard. Yeah. I think you were blocking your microphone, so your audio was a little bit hard to
Okay.
like go. Okay.
Now you're hearing.
It's a little bit better. Go on.
Okay. Um. So, I mean, I just wanted to say a few things. One, some of you kind of spoke in a collective language that, regardless about what subject you're talking about, I'm kind of against the idea of labeling, talking about entire ideology, the people that are aligned with some ideology as a singular mindset. I mean, I'm just against collective talk in general. Second, about the elitist part, I think it's just a natural outcome because the only people that will consider what to eat and what not to eat are people that have free access to a variety of food and have the luxury to decide, I don't want this. I mean, so it's like just a natural action. Also, I mean, most people, I don't think it's like trying to prove that you're better than someone. I mean, I think it's mostly just. I will tell you about myself. I stopped eating meat when I was very, very young. I think all I understood was I like animals, and I think it's weird that I'm saving one animal and eating the other. But in the same time, like, doesn't I understand that other people see it differently and eat differently, and I also understand that, I mean, regardless of what humans are genetically designed to eat, I do this. So anyway, also I wanted to say that it's also the militant part is also linked because it's part of the entire uh, ideology of the left. I mean, it's under the liberal. Oh, my cat is attacking me. The liberal ideology in general that they're trying to.
So we get it, but by the way, it's a little bit. By the way, clear. We have to move on because your audio is a little bit hard to listen to. So if you could fix that for next time, but I think we got
Yeah, I don't have a mic. This is like the best I got. Okay.
All right. So if you can, yeah. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. I kind of want to move on because we all have a little bit over 10 minutes left.
Okay. Can I just make one point?
Yeah.
Just one point. Veganism and vegetarianism is also bad for the environment because there's a lot of land that you could only plant. It could only grow plant that animals can turn into calories, and humans cannot turn those type of plants into calories. So we need animals to turn plants into calories, the type of plants that we humans do not have the gut to turn into calories. And by removing animals from the equation, you're going to basically give up access to a whole bunch of calories, and you're going to replace that. You're going to need a lot more agriculture, which is horrible for the environment.
Mm-hmm. All right. Whoever wants to talk about this, we can stay until after Armin is gone, and then you can discuss this further. All right. Next topic is Shauna, and her topic is the KKK, Democrats, and Islam.
The KKK, Democrats, and Islam. Wow. Okay.
Go on, Shauna.
Okay. So I've been listening to this I've been listening to The Rest is History. It's a podcast, and historian podcast, and they've been talking, and I've been listening to the series they did on the KKK, the rise and the fall. There's been different iterations. Anyway, however, its roots, and I thought you'd find this particularly interesting, go back to anti-capitalism, and so within the early Ku Ku Klux Klan and within the early Democratic kind of wing or the radical violent wing of what was the Democratic Party. Anti-capitalism has always been there. It's organic to it. It's not a new thing. So I thought that you would find that really interesting. I need to do more research because it was part of what was covered, but obviously it was more going over the racial violence and stuff. That was what the podcast was predominantly covering. So I need to do more research on it, but I thought it'd be something that you would find really interesting. And I was like, oh, that really actually makes a lot of sense. And the reason was because they believed in this whole idea of like property rights, and you were infringing on their property rights to extend capitalism out to every human. Like that's how fucked up these people were. Yeah, I know. I know. Sense. Well, because they believed that they believed they had the right to own black people. So they had property, and you were taking their property from them and infringing on their property rights, because we have to remember that they still had.
What about the rights of the black people then? Right.
Well, no, because they're inferior, Armin. Don't you understand? Obviously.
Okay. This is
according to them.
This is why capitalism is good for human rights, because everybody, everybody
gets a chance to compete.
Yes,
but this is actually where it gets back to Islam, because one of the things I realized is like the Democratic, and I don't mean every Democratic person. People vote for a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons, but I just mean like the kind of roots of elements of the party is this idea of having a like racialized supremacy because of inherited land that you inherited based on a title that you had, and that being related to Islam, and Islam being mad that Jews are coming in. They're creating, what are they doing? They're creating land, they're creating value, they're equally competing with the Arabs, and they're out-competing the Arabs. And so that tie-in was really interesting to me, and how that tie-in, why the Islamic movement fell so smoothly, and why these ISO cucks who are now moving to the Democratic Party, in some ways, they're actually just going back home. They were never really Republicans because they were never really capitalists. So that's, anyway, there's a lot of connections. I know it's kind of abstract. I'm still kind of processing it, but I wanted to throw that out there as this historical fact and something to kind of get our brains moving. Because I just thought that connection was really interesting. Again, obviously not fully fleshed out, but.
Interesting. Yeah, looking forward to you digging more into that. Thank you for sharing that.
We have two responses. Samantha wants to respond.
And then I have super chats as well.
The KKK, but I have never ever heard an anti-capitalist say anything remotely positive about the KKK. Any anti-capitalist I've ever encountered has always hated the KKK. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's not what she said. She didn't say. She said they were anti-capitalist. She didn't say that the anti-capitalists that you specifically met loved the KKK. So she didn't make that claim.
Jose, you're next.
Okay, history guy talking now. The KKK was founded for one purpose and one purpose only: to scare recently given the right to vote blacks from voting. Why? Because the KKK members were the only people voting before, the whites supremacists, the Democratic Party of the South. Okay? It wasn't about capitalism, because they were capitalists themselves. Their engine was the slavery. Okay? So I don't know where you're getting that information from, but it goes against history completely, because it was about voting rights. It was about Jim Crow. Okay? That's what it always was about. As a matter of fact, a little known fact, the founder of the Ku Klux Klan was a guy by the name of Nathan Bedford Forrest. If you're an American, you know he was one of the best cavalrymen in the history of the United States military. and he was a Confederate. What people don't know about him is he took 50 of his slaves from his plantation, males, with him into battle. They fought alongside him, shot Union like it was, and he always promised them one thing: I will free you when I get home. If you fight for me, if you survive, I will free you when I get home. Guess what? He kept his promise. So there's a lot of stuff in that that are not taught in this country, are ignored in this country. And I understand your point of view, Shauna, but you need to understand there are people out there that will tell you in the South that the Civil War was not fought for slavery, it was for states' rights. It's the exact same bullshit that we're hearing in Canada right now, where the individual states feel that they're being oppressed by the national government. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Jose. Sketch, you're next.
Yes, the Democrat Party has always been the root, the trunk, and the branches of white supremacy in the United States. The Democrat Party is the party of the Confederate Army. That's who the Confederates are, the Democrats. The Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln was founded and made to fight slavery. Democrats were against the individual right to own and defend yourself and your property. They are still against that. Now they've expanded it to white people too. It doesn't mean they've changed a single policy. What the Democrats changed was the marketing. They are still trying to do abortions. They were very eugenic. The Democrats were all over eugenics. They loved it. They were forcefully aborting Black people, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, all over the south of the country, and in Florida, all the way up to New York. This is what the Democrats are. The Democrats are white supremacy. The only thing they changed is marketing. Now they want you to go abort yourself. These clinics that do the abortions, where are they? They're all in the Black neighborhoods, right? So the roots and the trunk and the tree of white supremacism has always been the Democrats. They have always been the people who made the KKK, the people who made these eugenics institutions, the people who have always been against your individual right to own and defend yourself and your property. It's always been the Democrats. The only thing they changed is the marketing in pretending that they care about us. First, they cared about Black people. No, suddenly we care because we're going to give you this handout. Just vote for us. We're going to keep the same policies that hurt you, but we're going to give you this handout, so you vote for us. Then once they were in the pocket and they didn't have to help them anymore, pretend to help them anymore, they started pretending to care about Latinos, right? And then they abandoned us and started pretending to care about gay people and trans people because it's cheaper. There's a lot more Black people to take care of, but if you switch to Latinos, there's less of them, so I have to expend less energy. I have to actually spend less money to help these communities because they're smaller. Well, you know what? There's a lot of Latinos too, right? So I can switch from pretending to care about Blacks to pretend.
I need to go. So I'm just going to read this regarding the capitalism, and you guys could continue discussing this after I go. And I also need to read the super chats. Okay. So with regards to KKK and their relationship with the capitalism, so here's a quick breakdown. Okay. So we have the Great Migration from 1910s to 1970s. When Northern industrial capitalists began recruiting Black Southerners for better paying factory jobs, Southern white elites and the KKK were furious. They actively terrorized Black workers and Northern labor agents to stop them from leaving. Controlling, and the KKK wasn't mad necessarily as the capitalist system. They were mad at that northern capitalism was disrupting their localized radical agricultural economy. So after the Civil War, the KKK acted as a terrorist enforcer for southern land owners, using violence to prevent Black Americans from owning land, negotiating better wages, or gaining economic independence. So they love capitalism as long as it guaranteed white wealth built on cheap captive Black labor. They didn't like the capitalism from the North because it was a threat to their economic model.
Like they do with immigrants.
And also Also, I was wondering if Sketch is correct and saying he's correct. Yes, historically, from the 19th century through the mid 20s, the Democratic Party, specifically the conservative Southern wing, was the primary political vehicle for white supremacy, slavery, and segregation. But however, it seems like that changed in the completely flipped in the 1960s, which I don't want to. We could talk about that later.
That's a lie.
Okay, that's a lie. According to Sketch, we could talk about it later. We have 5 super chats. BT, thank you guys. We got a lot of super chats today. BT saying, I don't disagree with Tarun. Hell is freezing over. Okay, thank you, BT, for the super chat. And then we have Christian saying, I really hope Trump will not make a deal with those thugs in Tehran. This regime must go. Yep, I agree with you. The regime has to go. Thank you so much, Christian. Very, very generous super chat. Thank you so much. And then we have Rasa saying, whatever Tarun said on vegetarianism plus India is purest of pure BS. He can make loads of money by selling substance he is consuming. Oh my god, absolute waste of time. Wow, Rasa, thank you so much for the super chat. If you want to come hear what Tarun has to say to respond to that, you could come in the discussion group after I leave. And push-ups with another super chat saying, ever read Khomeini's book on living with animals? I think KFC is nicer to their chickens than that. Oh my god. Well, thank you, push-ups. Thank you for the super chat. Mr. Mag 82 saying, question, how can you know if someone is a vegan? Answer, don't worry, they'll tell you. Okay, but thank you for the super chat. And guys, remember guys, this discussion group, you could come in. I saw some people disagreeing with my take on veganism or vegetarianism. Remember, you could join the discussion group. The open days are days that you could come and debate us if you disagree with us. So if you think anything I said or anyone else saying, anyone else in the group is saying something that you disagree with, come and debate us. That's what this open group discussions are for. The group calls are for. So the link is in the description. You could also scan the QR code in the top left, and also the link is in the bio. So guys, I'm about to go. I need to go get ready for the next show starting in half an hour. Guys, that people are watching us, wherever you're watching us, it will be played there as well. So just stay where you are. And we'll go live in half an hour. So yes, I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukrainian, long live America, Javid Shah, Payanderan. See you guys soon. Bye.